Stop messing around, stop fooling around, stop delaying, stop procrastinating. Get up, get out, get it done. Everything is possible, nothing is a problem, and anything can be overcome. I just get my ass up out of bed, I get my shit together, and I get out and I start the fight. And that will transform you from a mere mortal into a superhuman being. I've never, ever, ever met anybody who told me that they got rich watching their IRA or their 401k.
Welcome to the Daily Cash Flow. My name is George Robson.
I am Peter Siegel.
Peter, my fiance and I are looking for a place to rent. And
interesting time to be in the rental market.
Yeah, you know, the lease is coming up. Decided it's time. We have a few more roommates than we'd like, so decided it was time. And supply is low. What's up with that? Can you talk to that a little bit?
Supply is low. Supply is low depends on where you are. I mean, out here where we are in coastal Monmouth County, New Jersey, supply is low. In New York City right now, supply is high. In my 30 years of being in the business, I've never seen so many vacancies as what I'm seeing right now in New York City. Almost 70,000 vacant apartments are available in New York City right now. I mean, it's insane. But what we've seen is that people are fleeing not only New York, but all of the other urban areas, cities, and densely populated urban centers. And they're looking to move to outside of them, where they maybe can get some recreational space, a yard, a larger house or a larger townhouse or a larger condo for what the money would be that they'd otherwise be spending in the city. We're seeing here in our office, we have zero vacancy. We have everything rented. When an apartment comes available for rent, it rents in 2 seconds. So we're seeing that right now as well. But I think in all of the suburban areas around the urban centers all around the country, that's what people are seeing. Second home markets as well, George. So if you look at the coastal areas, the mountain resorts, golf resorts, places like that where people typically have often wanted to escape to, they're living there. They're not just escaping there, now they're living there. You've got Governor Cuomo of New York begging the people to come back to New York City and spend money because the city needs the revenue. There's no tax revenue coming in at all. And but these people are slow to come back because they're in these big homes. They're at the beach. It's September now. We just got out of August. So the weather's still nice. And I think that we're going to find even through the fall and into the winter that people are going to remain out in these other areas. They're going to be at their second homes. They're going to be in these coastal markets, the mountain areas, the golf resort type of areas. So the supply outside of the urban centers is very tight and very limited right now. Prices have gone up. Supply has gone down. I mean, I know that in the markets where people are looking to purchase homes, that places that never really had any sort of demand ever before to speak of, now there's bidding wars sight unseen. People are calling in offers with their brokers. They don't even need to come see it. They just need the house. Why? Because they can afford it. It's way bigger than what they have living in Brooklyn or in the Upper West Side or wherever they're coming from. And they got to get out of the city, right? They got to, the school starting, they got to get the kids in school or in a school program or in a virtual school program or whatever's happening. But it's happening now, and there's this big rush for people that want to buy homes. There's a big rush for people that want to rent apartments and rent homes, like yourself and your fiance. So I think for sure that's what's up. And I'm not in the markets in LA and Chicago, but I promise you that the suburban areas are feeling the same thing. And I promise you that the areas in Southern California are feeling the same thing, and Northern California outside of San Francisco. I mean, these places are so expensive. Why would you want to live there if all the restaurants and shops and culture that you're used to experiencing in your life, they're all shuttered? Yeah. I mean, get out and go to the beach, go to the mountains. If you live in Chicago, I'm sure the markets around the Great Lakes are on fire with demand because those places are so beautiful and they're big, wide open, nice spots on the water. I mean, why wouldn't you want to live there? So I'm sure that's what's happening.
Do you think this could potentially lead to more affordable housing in some of those densely populated
areas? Oh, it's going to. It already has.
Yeah.
So simple supply and demand, which I like to talk about. It governs everything. As supply goes up and demand goes down, so do prices. So prices in New York, rents are already down 10 to 15%, depending on what your product type and what your neighborhood is. And on top of that, the landlord's paying the expensive broker fees and the application fees. and the tenant's getting free rent as concessions to come into the building and sign a lease. I mean, we haven't seen that market condition in a really, really long time. So it's already getting more affordable. Everyone's got a different definition of affordable. To me, the definition of affordable is no more than 35% of your annual income should be dedicated towards your housing costs. So if you're spending more than 35% on housing, you are not affording housing, you're in unaffordable housing, but that's your choice. And if you are at 35% or less of your annual income being dedicated to your rent or housing costs, then it's affordable for you. And that's also a choice. So I want to point out that the word affordable housing is really a function of income. If you've got a high income, obviously it doesn't matter, you can choose more. If you've got a low or a moderate income, you have to choose a place that you can afford. Stick to the metric of 35%, no more than 35% being dedicated to your housing costs.
So speaking of housing, a little while ago you told me a story, or it wasn't really a story, you just told me a fact, that you purchased your primary residence third, that you had already purchased two other houses before that.
I did.
Can you talk a little bit about that, share why that was?
So great question. You know I'm not a fan of people buying homes if they don't have the money to buy homes. I think that whatever money people have should be used to invest and further yourselves on the financial path until such time where you have enough money that you can buy a home and commit and plop your money down and your equity down into a situation where it's locked up and you don't have to touch it or get to it. So for me, when I was a kid, I loved skiing out west in Colorado. I thought it was a majestic place. I fell in love with it. It became part of my cellular makeup, my DNA. I would spend a lot of time traveling there. I mean, I would work so hard that when I was finished working hard, I really had to play hard. So I would several times a year fly out to Colorado, and I was staying at hotels and bringing bags, schlepping bags and equipment. It was a big production, and spending money on these hotels so I could spend some time out in the mountains, clear my head, breathe that air, and go skiing, right? Just what I love to do. And after a while of doing this, it became apparent to me that I could spend the same money, purchase something, have it as a rental property, and then if I was lucky, I'd get to use it on the in-betweens. The in-betweens meaning when it wasn't rented or in between when guests were checking in and checking out. And this is before VRBO and this is before Airbnb. So I looked at the property. It was a high bedroom count for the size that it was. I mean, if you're going to buy a 1 or 2 bedroom single tenant property, you're never going to make money on it. This was a 4.5 bedroom, almost 5 bedroom house where it could easily be rented given the market conditions and what the marketplace was looking for. I ran the numbers. I had a large equity position in it. I had a relatively low mortgage and a great interest rate, and I could keep the property rented, and it was cash flowing for me. And this was not done because I wanted to buy a house to have a house. This was done because I was spending so much time and money going to this place anyway that it was actually cheaper for me to buy the house than it was to continue to come out and spend money on these hotels. So in this particular case, George, buying the house was a cost savings, and I could rent the house, I could sell it later, I could have it for one day when I had enough money to pay off the mortgage and keep it and not care about it. I had options. So options are key in real estate and in life. Options are key. The more options you have, the more valuable the opportunity is. The more options you have, the less stress and pressure and frustrations you're going to have. So options are key. Always seek out the options. For me, in that case, I could use it, I could rent it. It was no stress, no big deal. I was committed to going to this place because it was my happy place. I wanted to get my time logged in here, and it made sense for me. And I had enough money at the time that I was able to invest all that I wanted to and needed to in apartment buildings. So there was no opportunity cost for me to make the investment in the house at that stage in my life, as opposed to pouring the money into apartment buildings and commercial real estate investments. Because I really think that people shouldn't be buying homes until they have so much money that it doesn't matter and they can afford to. So that was the first time I bought a home, and now that's my third home. And the other thing that happened out there is that I ended up, because I had such a great experience doing it that first time, I ended up buying more and more and more. And today I've got a portfolio of property in the secondary market for me, and it cash flows amazingly. every one of those properties stands on its own, and the market's experienced tremendous appreciation. I get great tax benefits because I get to apply income and losses against my core portfolio of commercial real estate, and they offset. Talk to your accountant about that. And so I got really excited here, and I started buying stuff that penciled out and I could underwrite to make me a profit while I was holding it, while I was traveling there and skiing there and vacationing there. I mean, it wasn't just a vacation for me. It was a work vacation or a workcation or whatever the word is. Those were important features about buying my first home, which was really my third home, was that I always had a backstop. If I had to pull the ripcord on the parachute, I could. I could just rent it out. I was making 10% on my money. And
what I love about this is that it's really about running the numbers and seeing what's the most profitable, what's going to be good for you, rather than this kind of abstract idea of like, oh, I'm the right age, or this is the time in my life where I want a house, or I just want a house.
Home ownership. It was less about home ownership. I really didn't want or need home ownership. I just needed a solution because I was traveling out there spending so much money on hotels that it was stupid not to buy this place. So that was the first time. The second time I did that was for my second home. My second home ended up really coming to fruition for lots of the same types of reasons. I was living in New York City. I was building out my presence and my office and my portfolio in coastal New Jersey. And I was getting up at 4 a.m, driving down to New Jersey, hour and a half every day, working a full 12 hours, maybe more, and then driving back to New York City late at night, only to sleep for 4 or 5 hours, wake up, turn around, and do it all again the next day. I mean, I was burnt out after a little while, and I really was needing sort of a crash pad. And I had no place to conduct business when I was first starting out in this market down here. I had a few buildings, and when I needed to meet people, vendors, suppliers, contractors, I had to meet them in basements of buildings. I mean, it was, look, you roll up your sleeves and you get it done. But what I found a great big single-family house, way bigger than I needed. Again, I had enough money, thankfully, that I was able to still deploy my capital into apartment buildings. I didn't have any opportunity cost dedicating a little bit of money to a house purchase here. But I'm part of the fabric of the community here, and I was part of elevating the economics of the community here. So I thought, why not put my money where my mouth is? I'm going to buy a house. Now I've got a crash pad. Now I've got a private space to meet people and conduct a little bit of business. I don't have to meet anybody in the basement of a building. And if I get run over by a truck and I break my legs and I can't get to work and I don't need it anymore, I can rent it out, and the rental numbers penciled out very, very favorably. So again, it was more a function of so many reasons for me to buy it compared to just the one reason of home ownership. Home ownership for the sake of home ownership is such a crippling, debilitating concept. You're plowing your money, whatever money you have, into this property as your primary home, and you're living there, and then you're paying down the mortgage, you're commuting to your job, which is probably nearby, and you're coming home every night, and then you're stuck. You've heard me talk about it before, George. You've got a big weight around your ankle. If you need to be flexible, mobile, if you need to move, change jobs, if you need to change where you live, we're seeing a lot of that right now, people needing to change where they live. A lot of people that own homes can't just so quickly change where they live. I mean, if you're renting in New York City and the pandemic hits, you can probably ride out a couple of months on your lease until it expires and then go out and rent something outside of the city. But if you own your apartment in New York City, it's tough to unload it right now. There's not a lot of buyers. So yeah, prices are coming down. Housing in the urban centers are becoming more affordable. Housing prices outside of the urban centers and in the second home markets are on fire. Both rental and for buy product are seeing massive price appreciation right now. A lot of demand for that. And if you're going to buy a house, have lots of options and lots of reasons as to why you're going to buy that house. If you can rent it out, if you need to, great. If you can use it for multiple purposes, maybe you're going to build a studio or run a business in the garage and put a kid in the school system, great. But home ownership for the sake of home ownership, because you think it's a great idea, rethink it.
Well, and it makes me think of this phrase that I heard this week. I had never heard this before, that rent is the maximum you'll pay, but your mortgage is the minimum.
George, you're talking my language, man. We've talked about this early on in our work together. So the cost of home ownership is never just your mortgage. You got to pay mortgage, you got to pay mortgage insurance, you got to pay property insurance. You have to do landscaping, repairs and maintenance. You have to open up the pool, you have to close the pool. You have a leaky roof, you got to fix that. You have so many costs that go into owning a home that you don't if you're a renter. If you're a renter, you write one check a month, it covers everything. There's nothing more on top of that you have to pay for. Your rent check is it. When you own a home, your equity's tied up, you've got opportunity cost, you've got all the other costs of owning a home. So 100% that quote is dead on.
Yeah, and so that's if you have cash flow with that house and you've run the numbers, then all well and good. But if you're doing it for this, abstract concept, then it's not.
Yeah, well, look, I'm not saying people should go out and seek single tenant, single family homes as investments. I'm not a fan of that. That's not what I did, and I'm not saying that's what people should do. I want to be clear about that. Buying single tenant investment properties is a shitty idea because that property is either going to be 100% occupied, great, or it's going to be 100% vacant, not so good, right? So at the end of the year, maybe you're 50% occupied. That's not a successful investment. So avoid buying single tenant, single family homes as an investment. Have options to work with them. I mean, for me, my Colorado home, it was just less expensive for me to buy that than to fly out there and pay for hotels.
Yeah,
as crazy as that sounds.
And you even mentioned that all throughout that, you were heavily invested in income-producing real estate and in apartment buildings.
I never chose to buy a home instead of investing in apartment buildings. Never. And I would never suggest that someone buy a home instead of putting their money to work for them in a great investment opportunity.
Yeah, and that's what we're here about. Cool. Do you have any scripts that you use to sell or persuade that you've found have consistently worked for you?
Look, persuasion's an art and selling is very nuanced. Yeah. So there's not really one script that works all of the time. So I can push my agenda with someone or I can create a rapport with someone, and those are key things to do. I don't really have a specific script. I'm just good at selling. My dad always used to say about me, Peter, you can sell the balls off a brass monkey, which is code for I can sell air conditioners in December or whatever the other analogies are. But I'm very good at seeing what my counterpart wants and needs and then delivering that to them. And I think that in business and in life, that's what we all need to be good at. If for you, negotiating and selling is all about, what's in it for me, and can I close this guy, and can I sell this guy my product? I mean, if it's a very one-sided way to think about it. I mean, the successful people who are great at selling and great at closing and great at negotiating make it about what's in it for their counterpart. What can I deliver to you? How can I make you get what you want? And I'll figure out how to get a win out of it for me as well at some point. But I mean, that's what the great salesmen and salespeople are like. So the more you make it about the value that you can deliver to others and about the performance that you can give to others, you're going to have an easier time selling and negotiating. Make it less about what's in it for me and I got to close you because I got to make this money and you got to buy it and I need you to think the way I do and I need you to agree with. I mean, it's very one-sided, right? That you can hear the words I'm saying. It sounds very one-sided and not very mutual. But the more you can make it about a mutual win and a duality of success, you're going to be golden.
But yeah, it's a common misunderstanding that sales or persuasion is manipulation, or you're trying to create a scenario in which you get what you want, rather than, like you said, adding value and serving the other person. Actually,
don't work so hard, everybody. I mean, you're working so hard to try and get what you want, right? Just give. Be a giver. The more you can give, people are going to love you. They're going to have that rapport with you. They're going to respect you. They're going to want to have dialogue with you. You'll be able to close them. You'll be able to get what you need out of it, but deliver to them and stop working so hard.
Yeah, and the scripts would be more organic.
I think so.
You won't have to come up with anything to say. You'll know what to say.
I think so.
No, that makes sense. I wanted to ask you about limiting beliefs. Do you have any, or have you had any limiting beliefs in the past that you felt that you had to eliminate for yourself? And if yes, how did you eliminate those? And if no, why do you think that you didn't have it?
Yeah, I don't have any limiting beliefs. Maybe as a younger person, I may have, but I think I've traded those for beliefs of empowerment and choices. I believe everything's a choice. So if there's at any time something that I thought was limiting me, I never really paid it much attention and instead chose to believe that I can do anything, I can accomplish anything, I can achieve anything. All I have to do is think about it. I have to work at it. It takes work, takes effort, and problem solve along the way to get there. So I don't believe that I've got limiting beliefs. To me, everything's a choice. We've talked a lot about that here. And, I'm 52 years old. I'd love to be 15 pounds lighter. And I can choose to work out a little more, and I can choose to change my diet so that I can achieve those 15 pounds, right? And I'll do that, and I can choose tomorrow to do that. And for whatever reason, I'm sitting here in front of you today saying I wish I was 15 pounds lighter. So I'll probably choose to do that at some point, but it's going to be a choice. I don't feel that there's something stopping me. I'm worth X amount of dollars. I want to be worth Y amount of dollars. I don't feel like there's anything stopping me. I'm just going to choose to keep doing the things that I believe are successful choices to make, and I'm going to get there, and I could achieve that money goal. I think it's all a matter of choice, at least for me. So no, I don't have any limiting beliefs. I mean, I acknowledge that I probably can't run at a pace which is faster than, Olympic runners, and I can't achieve certain physical things, but I don't think that's what you're asking me. And in terms of achievement and problem solving and getting through or around obstacles or overcoming challenges, yeah, I mean, all that stuff is choice driven. So I think the fact that I acknowledge that stuff to be choice driven in itself is not limiting.
Right, it allows you to take control of the scenario, that even with things that are outside of your control, you can choose to engage with that information in a certain way. Yeah, George, I don't feel limited by things. I really don't. I feel the world is my oyster. I try to teach that to my kid because I think that's an important message to deliver to people, especially young people. Make them feel like there's so many choices and options. Here we go talking about options again. You can do anything you want. All you have to do is think about it and work for it. And I believe that. I really do. And so I don't feel limited by things. And if I ever do feel limited, I can change my position. I can change my perspective. I can change my response. If I'm not having the success I want in this town, I can try the next town over. If you're having a moment where you feel kind of frustrated or you feel like you're coming up against some obstacles, how do you navigate that in a way that you regain that control, you regain that sense of choice? I'm asking mainly for those people that might not feel that they have the ability to do that.
I'm going through that now with some things. I mean, some things started off presenting themselves to me as great opportunities. They were tracking really well. Then they got off track. So my counterparts, they get off track, and it impacts me because the deal and the opportunity now isn't in the place where I thought it would be. It's very frustrating for me. And I try to think of ways that I can rope it back in and corral the circus a little bit. But, you do what you can. I stay on top of it. I don't let it get me down. It's frustrating, but I just keep plugging away. I work. And I keep everybody focused. I mean, that's part of what being an entrepreneur is. You're a ringleader. You have to keep all the moving parts and all the flowing waters focused where you need it to be focused. So that's what I do.
Keep going seems to be...
You got to keep going. There's no substitute. I mean, even when you think you've lost, you haven't really lost. It's never really over. Right. There's always so many other responses or actions or courses which could be explored to revive or redirect a deal or an opportunity or a situation or a relationship. And you can always take corrective action. But not everything's going to happen on my timeline the way I want it to go, as fast as I need it to go. There's other elements in the universe pulling and tugging, so you got to deal with that and you got to make it work.
And not living and dying on every single deal or decision that you're making allows you to kind of detach yourself and not feel like your ego depends on everything.
Just got to stay focused, be who you are, and stay focused. But we're not limited. We have choices. Yeah. And if at times we feel like we have limits or obstacles or challenges, you can choose different responses, directions, courses, or paths.
So I have a listener question from Facebook today.
Facebook.
This listener asks, what deals or successes are you most proud of?
That's a nice question. So for me, really all of them. I've never once lost money or had a shitty deal that I've done or been involved with in my real estate career. So really all of them are important building blocks that have gotten me here to where I am today. I think that a particular time in my career that sticks out, though, is I can recall back to the first deal where I partnered with other investors and they invested with me, and I was responsible for managing their money in terms of them coming into this real estate deal with me. And the first time I did that, it was very empowering, ended up being a great deal, and people made a lot of money with me, and I was so grateful for that opportunity, because you really learn so much about yourself and about your business acumen when other people give you their money and make you responsible for it. And when you can close the loop on that and perform and deliver investor returns, preserve capital, reduce risk, communicate with investors, create a sense of strength and confidence with investors who are giving you money. I mean, that's an incredibly powerful situation to be in business. And I remember the first time that I was in those shoes, where I was taking investor money because I couldn't afford the deal with my own money. I needed partners, needed investors. It really was a memorable time for me. It was sort of an aha moment where I went, oh, so I can really go for larger stuff. Investors will co-invest with me. I don't have to write the check all out of my own bank account, and we could all share in this together. And that's really one of the big moments that's gotten me to where I am sitting before you here today.
Allowed you to dream bigger.
Sure. I mean, when I first started, I was buying stuff that I could afford, right? I was buying smaller apartment buildings, 10 units, 8 units, 12 units, and I had a lot of that stuff. So it was a lot of buildings, smaller unit sizes, but a lot of units in the portfolio. And, it was very management intensive, but it was what I could afford. And over time, that stuff marinates and cooks enough, as we say, and there's a point that you can reach economically where you can afford to then go to larger deal and transaction sizes. I took that leap, and I was doing that for a little while, but then I really was able to expand my investment horizons and my investment criteria by managing third-party money, friends and family money, investors' money, and we could go out and do larger stuff and take advantage of larger apartment building opportunities.
And what you're really describing is what leads us to Siegel Capital.
Yeah, that's what we're here doing today. But that was really a very memorable time for me. I remember feeling like I was growing up from a boy to a man, going from smaller deals to larger deals.
So we've talked about standing out quite a bit on the podcast, and we've had a couple different segments about that. But I wanted to get all this into one place. And so if you had to give Peter's 5 rules for standing out, what would that be? Peter's 5 rules for standing out? Here they are. First of all, one of my favorites, send handwritten notes and cards. And be expressive in them. Say, I'm thinking about you, congratulations, whatever the moment may be. But do it often, and do it with business relationships. Do it with friends and family, obviously. But do it with your business relationships too, because I promise you, no one's getting handwritten notes and cards from people. And when they get yours, they're going to remember it. Number 2, I love sending flowers and gifts, but not normal flowers and gifts. When I send a bouquet of flowers, it's oversized. It's magnificent. It outshines anything else the recipient has ever seen before in their lives. When I send a gift, it's not a pair of socks or a tie. And I love socks and ties like the next person, but I send stuff that's powerful, visually impactful, meaningful, and interesting and curated. And it's not the regular gift that someone would get throughout the course of their year. They're going to remember it. They're going to remember you. So go big when you can. Definitely write things down when you can. So number 3, learn the art of fun and friendly practical joking. If you can become a good practical joker and know how to do a good practical joke with not only friends and family, but with your business relationships, they're going to remember you as a fun and magnetic person and someone who's fun to be around, and you're going to build those bonds, and they're going to love you. Number 4, I tell people all the time, go the extra mile on the small stuff. We all work so hard and see how important it is to go the extra mile on the big stuff. But on the small stuff, on the insignificant stuff, go the extra mile. Your counterpart is going to be amazed, they're going to be impressed, and they're going to remember how hard you worked for their little thing, and it's going to grow. That's going to be a relationship that's never going to forget you. So number 5, go crazy with the eye contact, and always when you're in a conversation with someone, take a pause and a deep breath before you respond.
Your pause is going to communicate to your counterpart that you're thoughtful, that you're thinking about what they said, and it's going to create that rapport that's critical to have a win-win situation go on. And they're going to remember you as someone who's thoughtful and caring about them and empathetic towards them. So definitely focus on keeping your eyes on the target. None of this stuff when you're talking to people. I mean, make eye contact, hold the eye contact, and take a pause before you respond.
All right. Ready for Zest Quest, Peter?
I thought we were done. I was about to get up and go. All right, yeah, let's do Zest Quest, George.
I love that. We're definitely going to keep that in.
I was trying to slide out of the Zest Quest.
Trying to get out of get out of Dodge. These are quick, so
quick or long. I'm committed.
I won't hold you up, Peter. What food transports you to your childhood?
Come on, anybody who knows me, I'm gonna pause right now. Come on, if you know me, what am I about to say? What? That's right. DiLorenzo's tomato pies.
Fantastic. I haven't tried that yet. I got to get in there.
There is no I haven't tried that yet. You can't even. I'm offended that you would even say what you just said. It's not even like something that you would say that about.
Yeah, forgive me.
It's a religious experience. It's a cathartic experience. I mean, it's the best pizza in New Jersey every year by far, all the time. I've had the best pizza in New York. I've had the best pizza in Chicago. I've had the best pizza, what they claim to be the best pizza in LA. I've been to Italy. I've been all these places, had the best pizza. Let me tell you, it's all bullshit compared to DiLorenzo's tomato pies. And if you follow Portnoy, he's a respected source of a pizza review guy, I guess. He finally, upon my pushing and my prodding, came out and gave DiLorenzo's a test. He scored him a 9.3. So it's not the highest score that Portnoy ever gave, but
it's a high score, though.
It's a high score. I think it's top 10 high scores. Yeah. Glad you did, Dave. It was still a rookie score, 9.3. Should have been a 9.6, 9.7. Definitely up there with the guy in the Bronx that you scored really high, but that's okay. And then for you, George, when you say that you haven't tried that yet, look, I'll just have to take you because there is no trying it. You're not going to wake up one day and decide you're going to go there. You'll never get in. You're going to think it's a pain in the ass. You're going to wait 7 hours for pizza. I mean, you're going to wonder why you even did it. So I'll take you. I'll fix this.
Be ushered into the gates of heaven.
That's the only food that transports me anywhere is DiLorenzo's tomato pies.
Hell yeah. All right, well, last question for today. If you were the ruler of a small country, what would rule number one be?
I am the ruler of a small country.
Well, what's rule number one then?
Yeah, it's my home address, and that's my small country. And the rule is I have no control and no authority over anything or anyone at that address.
I love that.
I got nothing.
Yeah, it allows for so much more freedom, I would imagine.
Yeah.
All right, well, this has been great. Thank you so much, Peter. And,
thanks, George.
I'll see you next week.
See you at DiLorenzo's.
If you like what you just heard, you can subscribe to The Daily Cash Flow on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we'd love it if you left us a review. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at SiegelCap and on Instagram at Siegel.cap. As always, if you're an accredited investor, go to SiegelCapital.com and take our survey to see if you qualify to take part in one of our apartment building deals. That's SIEGEL Capital.com.